Okay, I wanted to give you a little extra help to prepare for the midterm and to use the work that you did in week 4 to help you get a better idea of where you should be thinking in this class and how your ideas should be changing. I also want to provide 3 opportunities for extra credit at the end of this presentation, and this will be a very short presentation. So at the beginning of the course, this is how you were mostly thinking, and this is how I've been teaching this class for 12 years. This is how students generally start thinking, no matter whether they're at law school, whether they're in junior or senior year, or if they're starting out as freshmen. You basically are used to thinking about law as one thing. That's something that you hold on to like a sword, and you can swing it around. And that once you get it, you will be able to defeat your enemies, very much like a superhero. So it's not surprising that you answer this way on the early assignments. And this gets me just a kind of a broad view of where students are. So there was 4 kind of answers, and what I want you really to pay attention here is that all of these answers contradict each other. So I suspect many of you searched online and copied and pasted some of these answers. So think about how there's so much inconsistency just with trying to find this from the internet. You might even also get this from textbooks from other classes. So again, think about how much inconsistency there is. So one is that people don't define a state, so it becomes completely abstract. It's like this thing, but you don't know what it is. It's like the blob or a monster. It can't be defined. When in reality, the state consists of hundreds, if not thousands, of human beings. So to say that sovereignty rests with the state, the blob, the ghost, doesn't make any sense, right? Because there's thousands of people all competing for influence and authority. And yet 9 students pick this as their definition of sovereignty, and this relates to power and law. There's also the idea that it is the thing, right? That it's not something you hold, but it's something that comes in at the end. It's like the final decision, like a buzzer in a game show. And again, this is kind of wishful thinking, right? Wouldn't it be lovely that every time we all disagreed on something would come out from above and say, you're wrong, and here's why. But this isn't really reality. The next one is even more vague, right? It's the omniscient. It's not the state, it's nothing, right? So power is just the power of all powers. It's the final ruling. It's the rule of all rules. This I would call the aggregate or the adding up model. Again, this is completely not related to reality at all. So this is another way that people speak about law, though if you think and listen carefully, especially in the media. One that is a little bit more realistic is dominance, that it becomes a personal possession. This isn't accurate, but it is something that we feel. So when someone does something to us, they dominate us, they do something that we feel like is unfair, it's against the rules, we feel like they must have power over us. So while this is not accurate, and this isn't a very good answer for the legal class, at least it's based in reality, right? It's based in our experience of being dominated at least once, in our lives, probably much more than that. And then the federal answer is really just the opposite of the state answer. And this problem between federal and state shows me that you didn't quite understand the concept of federalism in your previous courses that you were supposed to take before this class, which explains why you have a hard time with the court levels as well. If there are 50 states plus a bunch of possessions, and each state is the sovereign or has the final authority, you see the problem there. And then so if the federal government is supposed to have the authority, then what is the point of having the states? And then you've got all these kind of complications. And so again, these are answers that people tend to get from textbooks and from online. And I need you to stop doing that, basically. I need you to start thinking about reality. And so at least on these 4 answers, dominance at least comes from your personal experience, and you could have something to say about it. The other 3 are just completely made up and probably are only useful in making people pay money for websites, advertisements, and textbooks. So what does the article Deland teach you about legal interpretation? And this was by far the best assignment responses I've gotten so far this semester. So these are 4 really good examples, I think, of students now kind of dealing with those assumptions that you came into the class with, and now you're starting to see that they don't really make sense. And you did that by looking at an academic scholarly article. So this peer-reviewed article showed us, one student said, about the legal reasoning process being different from person to person. And because no two people think alike, they don't share a brain, then rules are also going to be different based on the person's needs at the moment. And then I would add their experience, right? We all have different experiences. And so if you've been a constant dominator in a relationship, you're going to see the rules differently than if you've been resisting somebody who's been dominating you. The other person said the article demonstrates that laws or legal rules are negotiated. And that's really a very important point that you should have picked up in this article, is that they're not cast in stone. In fact, they are literally not cast in stone. There is no place in the United States where all hundreds of thousands of the laws that have been passed by Congress and the thousands of laws that have been written into legal opinions by judges, they're not set in stone anywhere. So that's why there's no singular law. There's no one place. It's not one thing. And it is varied based on where we are in society and who you are in society. Another great example I thought here was that this is how you have to think about law in day-to-day situations. Many of you probably never played street ball or never really paid attention to street ball. But if you have played street ball, or if you've participated in any kind of team sport or any kind of competition, you'll see that people do kind of make rules up and they kind of try to understand them their own way. And so part of understanding the legal process or the legal system is understanding that negotiation structure, that people make sense of rules based on how they apply to their day-to-day situations. They don't go online and they don't go to textbooks to try to find out what the rules are. Now, one student in their draft has done a remarkably good job, A-level job, and they really took to heart and understood the reading from Legal Sovereignty. So I assume this is one of the few students who were able to get the book in time. But this is good for all of you to understand, is that we can't have a concept like sovereignty be abstract in textbook because it doesn't apply that way in real life. And if you doubt that, just look at African Americans who were enslaved, Native Americans up to this day who have had their power taken from them, and women throughout history, just for 3 examples. You could also add to that list children, of course, right, who aren't seen as being sovereign and don't seem to be part of quote-unquote the people. In other words, we've been way too vague and too abstract in classes before this class. But because this is a law class, we have to be much more concrete. You actually have to solve conflicts. You can't just say, well, it's that thing, sovereignty out there, and so somebody else has to solve this problem. And so this student gives really good examples from the reading that shows that they understand the concept of sovereignty not to be a single thing and not to be ideal. And then this now relates to the concept of power, law, and sovereignty. You really need to stop thinking in ideals and abstracts. It doesn't mean, I don't think you're ever going to forget these. So what I mean by stop thinking about them is stop talking about them all the time and really start looking at reality and the concrete situations that people are in. People are always playing tug of war with each other. They're pushing other people out. They're pulling other people in, right? They're always engaged in this ongoing negotiation process. And so don't repeat definitions anymore. That's not what this class is. Most of your classes moving on will not be like that. And so you have to stop thinking about law as a possession and power. They're not possessions. They're not like a baseball. They're not like a cell phone. They're not things you can go to the store and buy and then you have it. And you need to start thinking about the negotiation process. These are words that we have come up with to explain situations. They are not scientific truths, right? They're things that we're trying to work out over time, and they change depending on where you are. Really, in this class, you have to start coming up with your own ideas about what you think rights should be and understand them from an everyday interpretation. That's what brings meaning to ideas and rights, that they are in this kind of constant force with each other and against each other. And then finally, the extra credit is pretty simple. You just need to complete the Google form that I'll share on Blackboard and answer all of those questions. You should answer from your heart. You should answer what you think. These are all student questions, and I think they're very good questions. You should also go on to Blackboard and post your idea of sovereignty. As you're thinking through this, you can learn from other students. And this was a suggestion from one of your classmates, and so I'm using it to see what you think about how to come up with your own idea as opposed to copying and pasting things from the internet. And you really want to start coming up with what you think postmodern society sovereignty would be. So from the future, what would you like sovereignty to be? Would you like it to be quasi-sovereign? Would you like it to be with certain groups of people? Should it be against minority harm? Start really thinking carefully about that and using concrete examples from everyday reality. And then finally, you'll get even more extra credit if you thoughtfully respond to one of your classmates after they post their idea of sovereignty onto the Blackboard discussion board. So if I see back and forth that is very positive and you're contributing and helping each other come up with better ideas, that's going to improve your understanding in this class and your final revision of your paper, then I'll give you a lot of extra credit. Because this will be showing me that you're understanding the concepts and you're moving away from those kind of preconceived assumptions that you came into the class with and that you see repeated on social media and the internet. And so this is just kind of a way of helping you get deeper into the class and rewarding you for the great work that you did last week and to keep encouraging you to keep pushing on. I know things are difficult, and so I just want to keep that energy going.